Chapter 15 Dinner Guest. Maney opened the jars containing Bree and Julius's bodies frozen in stone, then carefully laid them out together on a thin white cloth. She wrapped them up and placed the cloth inside her robe pocket. She then grabbed a black robe that was similar to her own and threw it onto Sean's lap. "Put this on," she said. Sean lifted the thick fabric, which smelled heavily of dust. It was old. The stitching was pulling itself apart. There were about a dozen different pockets spread across the front in sewn patches. "Are you serious? I have to dress like you? What do you think people are gonna say when they see someone wearing whatever you call that? Jeans? And a hoodie? Yeah, it's way too conspicuous. The robes will work fine." Sean pulled off his sweater, revealing a brown cotton shirt underneath. He slipped the dusty rags over his head, stretching his arms through the sleeves. He looked himself over. "Wow, it almost fits." "Great. I guess you're the size of a 17-year-old girl then." Sean frowned. "I don't want to wear it anymore." Maney giggled. "Just be quiet. Fitzel is asleep. She doesn't have much time left." "Speaking of, what is a Fitzel?" Maney shook her head while thumbing the black fabric of her robe. "They're called torchwings, forest beings, magical creatures that share a special connection with nature. When they're born, a bond between their energy and the ecosystem around them occurs, an unbreakable tether of life that nothing can sever." "And the blue crystal lets you see them?" Sean asked. "Yes, and there aren't many left. We're going to the biggest torchwing city in Talmoria. The legends say it's almost as old as the earth itself, and it's in Millie's forest." "So who's Millie again?" "She's a powerful sorceress who only cares about torchwings. Some call her a witch. There are stories about her that are old, even older now. Although, the farther back you go, the quicker you realize she's likely been there forever, maybe even before the first humans. That's why it's called Millie's Forest." "And she's going to save Fitzel?" Sean asked. "That's the plan. Maybe she'll tell us how to cure the Grey Death, too." "The Grey Death? What's that?" "It's a disease. It appeared 5 years before I left my tower in Deningir. That's how this all started. The sickness causes people to stop eating and lose their minds. You forget the faces of everyone you've ever known. So far, at least as far as I know, it's never come to the north. It's safe up here in the mountains." "Why hasn't it reached the north yet?" "Nobody knows. Some think it's nature's punishment against the south for its historical use of dark magics. Others think the beacons of black fire are keeping the disease at bay." "Beacons of black fire?" Maney ran her fingers through her hair. "They're giant marble statues that look like old men carrying glass hourglasses with black fire inside. What they do is prevent anything magical from crossing between them. But there are ways underneath. Tunnels and cave networks that stretch across the whole island. Most are unexplored. That's how I got here in the first place. A woman named Asher led me through the tunnels." "So, this disease is magical? Is that why it won't cross the beacons?" "That's the basis for the rumor, anyways," Maney said. "No one really knows why it won't cross over." "And what about Dukmat? Fitzel said he destroyed her forest." Maney grabbed her arm, as if it made her uncomfortable to think about. "I don't think it's about destroying the forest, Sean. Dukmat wants the cure as much as we do. It's his people who are dying." "But he wants to hurt you, right?" Sean asked, trying to understand it all. "Well, yes. But he wants the crystal just as much. Without both of us together, it's pointless. He'd kill me and keep the power for himself if he could." "So he's the enemy, right? I mean, he's burning down forests and killing torchwings." "I guess so." Maney's voice rang hollow. And if it's been 70 years, if Dukmat is still alive, shouldn't he be a really old man by now? Maney bit her lip and turned her head. I don't know, Sean. I don't know anything anymore, remember? I've been dead for 70 years. I guess you're right, Sean said, turning his wrists. Maney put a hand to her forehead and sighed. Look, I'm just overwhelmed. I'm still coming to terms with what happened to me back in your world. Sean was growing annoyed by her constant distrust. She was hiding something, he could tell, but he also knew he didn't care. I get it. Why does it matter? I mean, I'm leaving soon anyways. Let's just take care of Fitzel. Maney grabbed her arm again and looked at the floor. She let out a long, deflating breath. I'm sorry, okay? All I really want is for my life to go back to normal. Now, after all this time and all that's changed, I'm afraid it never will. Maney stood in silence. She looked at the table where the empty jars still sat. Fitzel was inside one of them, still asleep. That torchwing in the jar is the last of her kind. The stone that's growing up her body isn't going to stop. All over Talmoria, the same thing is happening to every single torchwing that was born in the forest Dukmat destroyed. If this really is part of his plan, then he's not going to stop burning trees until they've all turned to stone. If I can't stop this, if I can't find a way to cure the disease, then one day there won't be any forest or magical creatures or anything left that's beautiful or natural left in this world. Sean stared at Fitzel without saying a word, all at once understanding the gravity of the situation. Girls back in his world were socializing or finding a career. Maney was trying to prevent the destruction of an ecosystem and all the creatures that lived inside it. He looked down at the crystal in his palm, the blue flame dancing, then to Maney. Why can't you use the crystal anymore? You're the hero, not me. Maney looked at the blue stone for a long time without saying anything, as if she was traumatized by what it stood for. I was forced to do something terrible, and so I lost the power. Sean wondered about that. What happened? It doesn't matter. It was 70 years ago now. It does matter because now I'm the one with the power, and if we're going to stop Fitzel from turning to stone, then we need that power to keep working, right? So tell me what I shouldn't do. Maney looked at Sean, then down to the rock sitting in his hands. She sighed. The crystal believes there's good inside you, Sean. It won't respond to me because I did something bad. That's the simple answer. So just try not to do anything bad. Clearly, Maney felt regret for whatever it was she had done to lose control over the blue crystal. Sean couldn't help but wonder why. Millie can answer your questions better than I can. But first we have to save Fitzel. She grabbed a thick leather book off the table and wiped its dusty cover. She went back to the opposite side of the room and sat down on the squeaky mattress. Come here, let me show you, she said. Sean sat beside her. Show me what? You said you wanted to learn more about my world, right? Maney flicked through the pages, going past giant spiders bearing strange designs on their backs, oddly shaped dragonflies that were almost the composition of water, and even birds that had 4 wings. Sean saw a strange horned pig and a man made of stone. There were owls that seemed to have the faces of people, and a bulky giant with liver spots. Maney stopped at a page with a drawing of a massive stone wall being broken through by a creature of enormous size. Flames rolled over its horrible leathery face. It had a snout, with jagged and broken teeth that stuck between its lips like shattered rocks. The creature resembled a wrecking ball, destroying thick stone walls as if they had been made of toothpicks. It had red pupils that were glowing even brighter than the flames surrounding it, and long white horns sticking out of its forehead, jutting forward like ivory swords. Dead soldiers littered the leftover walkways that were covered in black soot, while faraway bowmen shot futile arrows in the beast's direction. The creature was called a Renjin, and below the picture was a short description. "What is that thing? Do they still exist?" Sean asked. "No, luckily," Maney said before she began to read. "Killed off centuries ago by the Great Drought, Renjin were the most deadly beasts to roam the forest of Talmoria. Few would survive encounters with these horrifying monsters, even when considered mere toddlers in the eyes of their lengthy life cycle. Though none are as noteworthy as Goroth the Destroyer, a Renjin which lived to be hundreds of years old, growing massive enough to nearly level the city of Saratania at the beginning of the Second Age. Goroth was killed when a rain of fire came down upon the earth and consumed him. Saratania was saved, and many people were spared death on that fateful day, but a strange illness emerged that forced the city to be permanently evacuated, ending its story forever." Sean was shocked to read something so factual about a world he could hardly believe was real. "Sounds heavy," he said. "I guess it is." Maney kept flipping pages. She eventually landed on a picture of a woman with long blonde hair that was long enough to touch her feet. She was wearing a white gown and was depicted floating a few inches above the ground. She seemed like an angel, only more mysterious. Below the pictures were gold letters embroidered by wax, describing her name as Millie. "That's Millie," Maney said, tapping her picture twice. The illustrations were hand-drawn, but very detailed. Below the picture was another description, which Maney read aloud. "Queen of the Torchwings and liaison to the Enwyn, little more than this is known about the gold-haired sorceress. Many travelers have sought her audience only to later disappear into the trees that have gone undisturbed for thousands of years. It is not yet known whether these occurrences are a result of Millie herself or the strange beasts that occupy her ancient realm. Most would fare better avoiding her at all costs." "That's all it says," Maney said to finish. "Better than nothing, though, right?" "Better than nothing," Sean agreed. "But what if we end up like another one of those travelers in your book?" "What, no faith in my powers? I thought your grandfather showed you the bear's hide." "Yeah, I mean, yeah, except when you tried to threaten me earlier, well, what? You did just kind of pass out and fall right on top of me." Maney looked embarrassed. "I had just woken up from a 70-year sleep. That wasn't my fault." "I have to admit, it was pretty unthreatening. For a minute, I thought you just wanted to snuggle." Maney blushed and nudged Sean's arm. "Shut up! Like I'd want to snuggle with you after you stole my crystal." Sean laughed. "Hey, I had a duty to protect society from the evil witch I met in the forest." "What did you just call me?" Maney asked, folding her arms. "Magic girl, person, or whatever you call yourselves here. Don't hit me with a lightning bolt or turn me into a salamander or anything, okay? If I could turn you into a salamander, I would have done so a long time ago. Would have been much easier to convince you to come here with me." Sean smiled and stared at the floor. He and Maney sat for a moment without speaking. "I'm hungry. Are you?" Maney asked. Sean felt his stomach rumble at the thought of food. "Starving." Maney reached up and tore out the page in picture of Millie. She folded it, then slipped the page inside her pocket. She rose from the squeaky mattress and headed for the exit to the hideaway, Sean following. On the way out, Maney slipped Fitzel's jar inside her bag along with the encyclopedia on Talmoria's ancient creatures. She grabbed the oil lamp from her table and hung it back on its hook in the hallway. Sean stepped out beside her, and together they flipped shut the door to the secret bedroom. Now wearing a black robe, he followed Maney back up the stairs and back into the tavern. Once in the dining room, the uproar from the guests overpowered any other noise present. Maney walked towards Arabelle, who was stirring another batch of tomato soup over a crackling wood stove. Arabelle, do you think you could cook us something for dinner? We're really hungry. Arabelle jumped as if he hadn't heard Maney approach. He clanked tomato remnants off his wood ladle and turned towards her. Of course, miss. Anything I can do to help. Thank you, Arabelle. I don't know what I would have done without your father's help. And now you're here, continuing his legacy. And you can consider me honored to do so, miss. My father only ever wanted to help you. I'm sure he's smiling down on me from wherever he's at. Maney stared at the floor for a moment. She looked as sad as Sean had ever seen a person look. He's dead because of me. Arabelle looked like a knife had been thrust into his heart. Maney, you can't say that. You didn't get him killed. My father would have helped you even if he was staring down the blade of a sword. You've got to understand that we take care of our own here in Farringall, and you were one of us. If you hadn't gotten rid of those soldiers that night, I'd probably have been put into the royal service, or worse. I definitely wouldn't be running my father's tavern, I know that. How did you get it back? I mean, the tavern. Wouldn't they have known it was your father's? I guess my old man thought of that, too, 'cause the night he sent me away, he gave me an envelope. Inside was a will, giving all his possessions to my first name, but with Svetlana's last name. I suppose he suspected what was coming next. Svetlana claimed me to be her son, so when the collectors came, there was nothing they could do but hand over the keys. So that's how it ends, Maney said with a somber whisper. Sean looked away, towards the dining room. Maids were rushing tankards to tables, clearing empty plates, and dragging unconscious drunks to the back door. In the distance, a man was cutting massive flats of meat off the side of a roasting hog. Then Sean noticed something peculiar. Beside the man cutting pork was another man with blonde hair swept back over his scalp. He was looking directly at Maney, as if he was staring at a ghost. He sat near the end of the middle table. He propped himself up when he noticed Sean looking at him. Sean tapped Maney's shoulder. Someone's watching you, he whispered. Where? Middle table, left side bench, almost to the end. He's got blonde hair swept back. Maney and Sean turned towards the tables. They scanned the middle row, but the man seemed to be gone, disappeared into the crowd. I don't see him, Maney said. He was right there. He must have seen me. Or maybe he heard. How could he have heard us? I can barely hear myself. Sean paused, wondering if he had truly seen anyone. I don't know. He just looked so concentrated. It's hard to say. You sure it's safe to stay here for dinner, miss? Arabelle asked. Maney looked around the tavern, scanning for any signs of the blonde-haired man. I don't know. Make it fast, okay? Nothing fancy. Just give us whatever's almost done. I got a few juicy steaks that are nearly cooked. It'll be 10 minutes at most. Sounds perfect, Maney said. We're going to find an empty table. Try and blend in. Arabelle looked as if he thought it wasn't possible for a girl with blue hair to blend in anywhere, but he made no comment and returned to the kitchen behind the front bar. Come on, Maney said. Squeezing through a crowd as dense as a concert, Sean tried his best to follow. She led them to a table near the back corner, separate from the long ones in the center. This will be fine, Maney said, sitting down on the short wood bench. Sean took a seat on the opposite side. The table in front of them was a giant slice of oak tree with its bark still attached. In the middle was an unlit red candle set on a tiny circular coaster. He laid his arms on the rough wood surface and tried to get comfy. The air was filled with the smell of salty roasted pork. Sean felt his mouth water as the aroma passed. So, Is Arabelle good at barbecuing? Sean asked, feeling his stomach rumble. I don't know. He was just a little kid the last time I saw him. His father wasn't very good at cooking turkey, I know that. That must be weird to, be younger than he is now, even though you were older than he was back then. Yeah, it's pretty weird, Maney said dryly, as if she didn't want to speak about it. Well, it definitely smells good in here. My mouth is watering already. Mine too. Maney let her chin rest on her fist as she stared around the crowd of people. She seemed bothered by something. Sean looked around the tavern with her. These people seemed human, and they did human things, but they dressed in strange outfits and spoke in different ways, like people from another planet, like people from another universe. I can't believe I'm here right now, Sean said. This is crazy. It's like I stepped back in time. It's so different from where I'm from. Maney looked at the table and sighed. Yeah, I know how you feel, but in the opposite direction. Nothing looks the way I remember it. Are you okay? Sean asked. Maney seemed like she was about to reply when a burly man with tattoos on each arm began an uproarious argument with his much smaller friend over her shoulder. They sat at a similar table near a window and were enjoying a meal of potatoes, corn, and roasted hog. I'm telling you, Paul, don't get smart with me. I know my crops, and I know my sales. Who else can grow straw apples, huh? The man sloshed his drink around, splashing foamy yellow liquid everywhere. Both men were wearing mud-stained white rags like the farmers Sean saw earlier. I don't bloody care who can or can't grow those abominations, said Paul. Your explanation is preposterous. Bah, you're just jealous because no one wants Paul's potatoes when they could have Orion's straw apples. Paul shook his head. You're way out of your league, mate. One day the truth's gonna get out, then it'll be a fair fight at the least. I've been growing for 20 years with no special tricks at all, and I do all right. Yeah, you do all right. That's right, I certainly do. Maney cleared her throat, obviously trying to regain Sean's attention, when the man named Orion screamed, But can you believe the size of this thing? Orion reached under the table and heaved up a strawberry as big as his chest. He slammed the fruit against the table like a boulder, making the glasses and silverware clink together. Sean couldn't help but laugh. Will you put that thing away? Paul said. I've seen it 10 times already, just tonight. Don't get your knickers in a twist. You, young lad, you ever seen a strawberry as big as this one? Orion was looking directly at Sean. Pretty sure I haven't. Sean got up from his table and walked over. How did you grow that thing so big? Where I come from, they're as small as my thumb. Orion looked back and forth, as if checking to see who was listening. He whispered, Magic, laddie! Magic! Paul laughed so hard that he choked on his drink. Oh boy, you've told that explanation to people many ways, but none so blunt as that. You really are off your rocker, mate. Paul began to laugh again. After what he'd seen recently, Sean believed Orion much more than Paul seemed to. Can you use magic? No, bloody wish I could. One night I woke up early, before the sun even rose. When I went to my window, there were these lovely little winged creatures outside, floating along like a feather they did. As the lot of them hovered across my strawberry fields, I noticed the vines getting bigger and bigger, right before my eyes. The next morning, when I went out to check on 'em, well, Orion gestured towards the giant strawberry. Straw apples were born. I can't believe what I'm hearing, Paul said. Well, then you don't have to listen, Orion reminded him. Sean looked at the strawberry again. The black pods containing seeds were nearly as big as grapes, and the outside surface was shiny red. He imagined taking a huge bite and juicy liquid pouring down the corners of his mouth. What's your name, lad? I'm Orion, and this here's Paul. he said, shoving a thick, hairy thumb in both directions. Sean, good to meet you. He reached out to Orion for a handshake, but as soon as their skin touched, Orion pulled away. Aye, what's wrong with your skin? Feels like you got struck by lightning. Sean looked down at his hand, worried by what that meant. That was how Maney's felt to him. Now his skin was doing it too? Why? I guess it's the static electricity or something. Yeah, that, Orion said, laughing nervously, as if he hadn't heard the term before. Well, never mind the shake, I guess. Say, what's that fancy shirt you got there slung over your arm? Sean pulled up his red and black sweater. Oh, this? It's called a hoodie. A hoodie? Orion pronounced, slow and meticulous. I like that. Really? Well, what do you say we trade? I'll give you my sweater for one of your straw apples. You got to be... Of course I will. You can have as many as you like for that. How about this? Anytime you find yourself in Faringal, you stop by my farm and we'll load you up with as many as you can carry. Sounds great, Sean replied, shocked by such a generous offer. It's a deal then. My son is going to be so happy when he sees this. Sean handed the sweater to Orion and he held it high in the air, examining the red and black fabric in the light. He seemed proud. Sean then felt someone tap him on the shoulder from behind, so he turned to see who it was. Standing right in front of him, wearing a smug smile while holding out a crooked hand, was the blonde-haired man who was spying on Maney from across the tavern earlier. He stared for a long moment without saying a word, waiting idly for Sean's shake. Hello, the man finally said, in a thick and polite accent. Sean felt his heart drop as his senses went numb. Hi, he said. My name is Duncan. Pleased to meet you. The man shuffled his hand, expectant for Sean to grab it. I'm Spencer, Sean replied, not wanting to give up his real name. Really? I could have sworn I heard you introduce yourself as Sean just a moment ago. A separate alias, perhaps? The man lowered his hand. Orion and Paul watched without saying a word, obviously sensing the tension in the air. Sean felt his palms turn sweaty. He wasn't sure what to say now. Maney turned around from their table as if to rescue him. Me and him are together. You can talk to the both of us if you have any questions. Duncan looked at Maney and smiled, showing a disturbing similarity to a hyena. Fantastic, he responded. Then I suppose it wouldn't be too much trouble if I sat down with the two of you? Maney looked at Sean wearing a suspicious scowl. I guess it wouldn't, she replied. Perfect, Duncan said. He pulled up a chair from another table and sat backwards with his chin leaning against his fist on the backrest. The air turned stale in his uncomfortable presence. For a long moment there were no words, just threatening glances between Duncan and Maney. So, what brings the two of you to Faringal? Business or pleasure? Duncan said, breaking the silence. Maney stared at Sean, eyeing for him to sit down. He slid into the wood bench next to Duncan and across from Maney without saying a word. Duncan watched the entire time, never dropping his smile. If you feel the need to interrupt our dinner, Maney started to say. Oh, my dear, it's hardly an interruption. There is no dinner present. I simply would ask a few questions. There's no need to feel frightened. Venom lurked beneath every word he spoke. I wasn't frightened, Maney said in a bitter declaration. We're here for pleasure. My friend and I were just going to a party in Market Town, as a matter of fact. Duncan rubbed his chin. Market Town, I just came from there and am aware of no parties being held. It's a friends-only party, so... Well, great. I'm friends with everyone in Market Town. What would their names be? Maney paused, as if caught off guard. I hardly think that's any of your business. And speaking of names, what is yours, my darling? I never caught that bit. The man stared at Mamie with patient intent. Nora, she said. I'm from Shorewood. The man held up his index finger, taking an enthusiastic deep breath. Nora, fantastic name. It suits you very well. Duncan smiled again, showing his long yellow teeth. I have a story I'd like to share if the two of you are willing to listen. Mamie and Sean sat without saying a word. Sean felt disturbed by his energetic behavior. Fantastic. I love this tale. Always gets the heart pumping. I think you might agree. Duncan cleared his throat, readjusting himself in the chair. He looked at Sean and Mamie. Shall I begin? Neither of them gave a response. Duncan smiled at that. This story begins with a girl. A girl who once lived in Deningir. But not just Deningir the city, no, she lived at its head, in our king's fine and luxurious manor. She was there to help our king, working with him night and day, and in return this girl received anything and everything she ever wanted. She ate the finest foods our land had to offer, went to balls hosting the most powerful people in Talmoria, and enjoyed gifts that only kings and queens could imagine receiving. Duncan paused, as if deciding whether or not to continue. Her only job, as you may wish to call it, was to communicate with the sentient race of forest creatures. They might have helped her king find a cure to the Grey Death if everything went according to plan. The girl did this job for a very long time, until one night something happened. She disappeared, and our king watched as his plan to save Talmoria shattered before his very eyes. His access to their hidden world evaporated, and soon, to add to this misfortune, he found his first daughter lying dead, directly at the bottom of that girl's tower. Needless to say, he was very angry about this. Duncan looked directly at Mamie, watching her breathe with a disdain that was barely detectable beneath his politeness. In the months that followed this disaster, the disease quickly spread, and thousands of people died, but not before our king finally found where this girl was hiding. She was here, in this very town, in this very tavern. Duncan smashed his fist against the table with violent enthusiasm, causing Sean to flinch and sit back. He looked at Mamie, who seemed disturbed. But, Duncan said, smiling and moving his gaze off Mamie, she slipped through his fingers a final time. She went through a locked door to which the king had no key, and so he could not follow her. Duncan shook his head, his eyes falling in disappointment. It seemed likely that the end of the king's search had finally come. 70 years passed by, and many assumed the girl to be dead, assumed she would never return from the door, until one day, under the most unimaginable circumstances possible, she was finally seen again. Duncan glared at Mamie like a hawk. There was growing terror in her eyes. Sean felt paranoia digging into his thoughts. Was Duncan speaking about Mamie? What have I got myself wrapped up in? And the funny thing about this girl, you see, is that she wasn't just an ordinary girl. She was anything but ordinary. This girl could control a powerful item, a blue crystal. She even had blue hair, blue eyes, and was nearly the same age as you. Would you believe that, Nora? Mamie's eyes were as wide as the full moon. Duncan paused, studying her reaction with obvious satisfaction. You know what that girl's name was? He asked. Sean darted his eyes between them, unsure which was his enemy and which was his friend. Her name was Mamie, Duncan finally said. Mamie jolted up from the table at once, never breaking eye contact with Duncan. He hung himself lazily over the backrest of the wood chair in satisfaction. Let's go, Sean. Now! Sean slowly stood and moved away from the table, his steps as heavy as iron. He wondered if it was smart to keep following her, but he knew that without the blue crystal he couldn't open the door, so he didn't have a choice. Oh, perfect. So your name is Sean. I thought so. The man spoke so nonchalantly you'd think he was your best friend. Mamie turned and pushed through the crowd. She hurried towards the entrance as Sean trailed behind. Once at the door, Arabelle came out from the kitchen carrying 2 clay plates with steaks wrapped in sourdough bread on them. Here you are, miss. Arabelle, thank you, but we can't stay. We'll just take the food. Sean looked back towards the table where Duncan once sat, but his chair was now empty, and he was nowhere in sight. What's the hurry, miss? Is everything all right? No, it's not, Mamie said. We need to get out of Farringle. End of chapter.